Hey guys, Timothy here. We are in day 2 of Eldritch Moon. Spoilers, little caveat to this video. I'm on a mini vacation at my parents' place, chilling in a hammock, so if you hear dogs and children around me, that's because there are dogs and children around me. At any rate, we're going to look at these spoilers. I have already looked at them for the day, and I don't think we're getting any more today. So I'll look through what we got today and just kind of talk about my initial reaction to them, what formats I think they're relevant in. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything that really stuck out to you, leave a comment below so we can talk about it. I really like to get the conversation going before pre-releases. Really opens my mind to what may or may not be standout cards. But anyway, we're going to start here with Lone Rider. This is a 2-mana human knight with first strike and lifelink, and at the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life that turn, you transform Lone Rider into It That Rides as a 1. Pretty crazy name, awesome art on the card. This is a 4/4 Eldrazi horror with first strike, trample, and lifelink, so a lot of relevant abilities. It basically gains trample and +3/+3 for the turn. This card strikes me as something that could possibly break standard, or break into standard, I should say, in the white weenie decks, especially the human decks, or the Bant human decks, or whatever you want to call them. There are a lot of different iterations flown around, but on its own, it's not a particularly good card, but with a little bit of help, if you can ever transform it, it could be a mirror breaker for those sorts of matches. The lifelink helps you in the race, first strike means it's not going to die in combat, and trample means it's not going to be chump blocked. A lot of relevant abilities on a pretty good card. The problem is that it's not good on its own. It's a terrible, terrible top deck. It doesn't even get past Thraben Inspectors or cards like that. What it reminds me of, both in Standard and Limited, is Town Gossipmonger, a card that's not particularly good on its front side, but gets a lot better with help. The card that stands out to me here that could help it really push it along is Thalia's Lieutenant, which comes down and gives it a +1/+1 counter. And remember, when it flips, it'll keep that 1/1 counter, so it'll be out of Languish range. It'll be a 5/5 or higher. The thing is, you do need to help this card out. I don't know whether or not this actually will see play or not. It is one of the standout cards, but it definitely has the potential if you can push it through and finally get it flipped. If you're having trouble getting it flipped in Standard, or even if you're playing a limited deck that doesn't have a lot of other ways to gain life, this is a definite cut, but I'm curious to see whether it works out or not. I think it definitely has the potential there, but I'm no Standard expert, so your opinion is as good as mine on this one. Grizzly Angler is going to be our next card here, and I do have to apologize, I'm a little far away from the Wi-Fi source, so it might take a couple seconds for these cards to actually load up. But we could just stay on this page as well. Grizzly Angler is a 2/3 for 3. It's a human type, not super relevant in blue, but it taps and... it taps and you put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, and then if you have a colorless creature in your graveyard, you transform the Grizzly Angler into Grizzly Angler Fish. This is a 4/5 with a 6-mana ability that says creatures your opponents control must attack that turn if able. Pretty nice flip side. Decent sized body, again, survives Languish. But the front side, I have trouble seeing where exactly this would fit. The only thing that kind of stands out to me right away is that this card might be what you want for Emrakul-based decks. It does mill, and mill seems like the best way to get Emrakul out earliest. The flip side is just kind of a big, dumb creature. I don't really know how relevant this ability will be in Standard. I know it's definitely a good card in Limited because it usually gets to eat a couple things. It's not too hard to flip, and remember, it doesn't have to be an Eldrazi in your graveyard. It's just any colorless creature, so artifact creatures work towards this cause too. And I imagine Emrakul-based decks will be playing things like Hedron Crawler since they count artifact and creature. I'm also kind of leaning towards blue as Emrakul-based decks. Kind of the color you might want to go with cards like Coax from the Blind Eternities, and I still stand by the fact that Kiora is possibly very good with Emrakul. The -2 ability just gets you very, very close to casting a really early Emrakul, so I don't know. Will a blue-based ramp deck be where Emrakul fits? I have no idea. This card, I'm not sold on it in Standard, but in Limited, it's got a fine body on the front side, and if you can ever flip it over, it could dominate a game. Really mess up some control-based strategies. Moving on, I'm just going to leave it on this page since it's taken a while to load, but these two cards kind of go hand in hand. So we have Galvanic Bombardment, which is a 2-mana instant, deals X damage to target creature, only creatures, not players. X is 2 plus the number of cards named Galvanic Bombardment in your graveyard. So on its base, it's just a shock on a creature. It doesn't hit players, which is a little bit of a knock against it, but not too much. But basically, every Galvanic Bombardment in your graveyard increases the damage of the next one by 1. So the first one's a shock, then a bolt, and then 4 damage, so on and so forth. Very, very good limited card. This could replace Fiery Impulse in Standard as far as early game red removal goes. And it scales all the way up to 5 damage. The last one will deal 5 damage if you ever get there. Take Inventory. Very similar idea, just drawing cards. Kind of like accumulated knowledge from days of old, but I believe that was an instant. This is a sorcery. Take Inventory is 1 in a blue, draw a card, and then draw an additional card for each Take Inventory in your graveyard. So the first one draws you a card and replaces itself, basically. The second one is a Divination for 2 mana, which is great. And then from there, it's just super gravy. Like, 2 mana to draw 3 is insane. Once you get past the first one, it becomes very, very good. So in a spell-based deck where you want to be casting instants or sorceries, this seems great. These two cards, I don't know if there's going to be a full cycle or not. It very well could be. But I'm liking what I see so far. They are a little bit narrow. They don't just go into any red deck or any blue deck. And in draft, you have to really pick them, because I think they'll go super early, kind of like Squadron Hawks went in Eternal Masters. I just could never seem to get more than 2 of them. But they start off at a very low base, and then once you get 2 or 3 of them going, they definitely justify themselves. So speculate on this in draft. I don't know what to expect from it in Standard, but like I said, the Bombardment might replace Fiery Impulse. Kind of does the same thing anyway, scales from 2 to 3, and then gets even higher than that. And Take Inventory, I don't really know whether to expect that card or not, so that's one I'm curious about. The next 5 cards here are our intro pack rares. So all of the art on them are alternate art, basically. The first one here is Noose Graph Mob. This is a 6-mana 0/0, comes into play with 5+1/+1 counters on it. There's a zombie as well, which is super relevant. And it says whenever you play a spell, or whenever a player casts a spell, either player, remove a +1/+1 counter from the mob, and then if you do, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Super, super exciting for Limited. Probably not going to do it in Standard as a 6-mana creature. Zombies already have the high end on lock with cards like Diregraph Colossus and Geralf's Masterpiece. What zombies really need is a low-end card, and we just haven't gotten it yet, so high hopes there. But at any rate, in Limited, this card is crazy. If your opponent tries to remove it with something, like a Throttle will kill it because it'll respond with its own ability and go down to a 4/4, but you're still left with that 2/2 zombie, and basically, if you can ever put extra counters on this with something like Obsessive Skinner, basically anything that puts 1/1 counters, the card gets even crazier. I think it's really good. It essentially trades a 5/5 up to 5 2/2s in the long run. So it will kill itself in the long run, but it'll replace itself with enough damage on board to really do some damage, no pun intended. So I'm not impressed with it in Standard. I don't think it's going to see Standard play, but in Limited, this is definitely a bomb, and I would be looking to take it pretty highly. The next card here, Assembled Alphas, is our red intro pack rare. Some more wolf support, we could definitely use that. But it's a 6-mana 5/5, and it says whenever Assembled Alpha blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, deals 3 damage to that creature and 3 damage to that creature's controller. So a lot of times this will just be like a 5/5 unblockable, since it essentially kind of has like a trample type ability. There are cards like this in the last few sets, and the type of cards that whenever they block or become blocked, they kind of deal damage to the blockers. Those cards are usually really, really good. I don't know about a 6-mana one. I'm also just not seeing this card in Standard at all, not as a 6-mana option. But in Limited, you better believe this is a very good top-end red bomb. The fact that it can just mow down blockers and still survive is pretty good. And the fact that it punishes your opponent for blocking and hits for 5 and they don't block just means that it's probably going to get in damage one way or another. If they ever multi-block, things just get insane because it deals 3 for each blocker. But this card looks really nice. I could be surprised. I don't think the format's going to be so fast that you can't afford to play a 6-mana card in your red deck, and we already have 6 mana options from Shadows like Devil's Playground and Flameblade Angel, and those cards do just fine in red decks, so I like this card. Next card here, Niblis of Frost, is a 3/3 flyer for 4 with prowess, so cast an instant or sorcery or a non-creature spell. It's going to be attacking for at least 4 that turn. Which is already a great deal for a 4-mana creature. It's a spirit, so it works with Rattle Chains if that ever becomes a thing. And then you cast an instant or sorcery spell. You tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. That's pretty ridiculous effective. You're just have a deck full of instants or sorceries. This fits in the red-blue deck that already exists in Shadows over Innistrad. And it's just a good card on its own if you have any number of instants or sorceries in your deck. The base stats justify just playing it in any blue deck as well. But this reminds me of Guardian of Tazim, the Sphinx from was it Battle for Zendikar? The landfall one that taps creatures down, and if you play an island, it freezes them. Except this can tap multiple creatures in the same turn just by casting spells you're going to cast anyway. Plus, it gets bigger when it attacks, or when you do that. So, really encourages you to draft a lot of instants or sorceries, a lot of removal spells. Works pretty insanely with the 2 cards we just saw above. I'm impressed with this one, and whether I mentioned it or not, I don't remember. Short attention span, but it is a spirit, so if you get that Rattle Chains, you can flash this thing in and lock something down. Pretty crazy. I think this is probably by far the best of these intro pack rares. As far as Limited goes, I won't speculate on this card in Standard, but this card is crazy. Definitely draft it or play it in your pre-release. It's insane. Moving on to the green one, just, you know, your generic big green thing that does something. Ulvenwald Observer. This is a tree folk, so no relevant creature type here. It's a 6 mana for a 6/6, and 6/6, as we saw, is pretty big in Limited. This could be a good replacement for, like, your, what are they, the Boars, the 6/6 Trampler Delirium card. That card's just like something you include because you can. This is a card you might actually want. What it does is whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, you draw a card. That includes itself, so you get value off of it dying, and if you ever have another creature die, you're just getting a lot of value off of it. This is a good card. Not busted by any means. I wouldn't even go as far as to call it a bomb. I think the blue one is a bomb, but this card is very strong. It attacks well, it blocks well, it gives you value when your creatures die. It's everything you really want in a green deck. Gives your other creatures values for getting swept or just dying in combat, and can really outpace your opponent with card advantage. I am a little disappointed it's not a relevant creature type at all. It's just a tree folk, but it's a good enough card that I would draft it pretty much any time I saw it if I knew I was going to be playing green. The last intro pack rare here, Sanctifier of Souls. This is a white human cleric, so you have the human going for you there. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, so really encouraging those go-wide strategies, or if you're just playing a natural creature for the turn, it attacks as a 3/4, which is pretty sweet. And then the 3-mana ability here, exile a creature card from your graveyard, put a 1/1 white spirit token with flying onto the battlefield. This is a pretty good effect. It turns your graveyard stuff, the stuff that doesn't have any relevance in the graveyard, turns it into value over time. The same effects that make Dauntless Cathar and Nearheath Chaplain just solid commons and uncommons makes this a very good rare. The fact that you can take a creature out of your graveyard and convert it into something useful is pretty sweet, and he gets pumped when you do that. If you ever get to the point where you can do this multiple times per turn, or if you're just playing a go-wide strategy that can dump a bunch of tokens on the battlefield in general, this card's very strong. And it has that human thing going for it, so I don't think we'll see it in Standard, but it's strong enough in Limited that it definitely deserves to be picked early. Works with spirits, works with humans. Nice flexible little card, nice value card. Doesn't have to be like a wolf strategy the same way like certain red and green cards only work in wolf strategies, but I'll play this in any white deck and I'll be happy about it. The next card here I am going to click because it is in, what is this, Italian, Spanish, not sure. The Influence of Urkel, that may not be the actual name of the card. But we have an enchantment here for 2 green, 4 total, and it says, every time you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with a converted mana cost higher than it or equal to 7, draw 2 cards. So, interesting thing here is that a lot of the Eldrazi we see in this set are actually the flip sides of other cards, so you don't cast those. Those don't trigger this, but the one thing we've seen so far is that Hippogriff with Emerge, which leads me to believe that Emerge will be a pretty big thing. Probably based in blue and green, since Investigate was very heavily based in blue and green, and this will likely replace Investigate as kind of a blue-green based mechanic for the set. I don't know how good the card is. If you're emerging a lot, or if you have a lot of just Eldrazi's to cast in general, this card's pretty good. Every time you cast one, you draw 2 cards, which is quite a bit of card advantage, but I don't see it in Standard at all. I really don't. Maybe, I don't know. If you ever get to the point where you're playing like your World Breakers, this draws you 2 cards, which is pretty good. But usually you are already winning the game when you get to the point where you're casting those cards, so I don't know. I'm definitely not playing it in Limited unless I have the right deck and there's the right support for it. These kind of enchantments that draw you cards for playing certain types of creatures are usually traps. They're just not as good as they seem, but this one could be good depending on the support. I have no idea. And then final spoiler from today, I have a couple more to look at that I missed before. A card that kind of came from left field. I think it surprised a lot of people, and I'm super excited about it. It's awesome. But Dosent of Perfection. This is a 5-mana 5/4 flyer. Continuing the Delver of Secrets storyline to its finality. But you have a 5/4 flyer, so right where we left off with Perfected Form. It says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. Then if you control 3 or more wizards, transform Dosent of Perfection. So basically cast 3 instants or sorceries, flip this bad boy, and it becomes Final Iteration. It gets a power and toughness boost, goes up to a 6/5, becomes an Eldrazi insect. It's not actually a wizard itself. And it says, wizards you control get +2/+1 and have flying. So all those little 1/1s you spit out are now +2/+1. They're 3/2s. They're insectile aberrations. Really, really kind of interesting mix of effects here. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get another 1/1 wizard, or essentially a 3/2 if Final Iteration is still on the battlefield. This card is crazy good for 5 mana too. Like, these big blue flyers just win the game. Blue definitely needs stuff like this from Eldritch Moon as far as Limited goes, and you'll be drafting 2 packs of Eldritch Moon, so these blue rares between this and the Spirit we just saw are pretty crazy. This card is incredibly good. The fact that your instants or sorceries turn into creatures, that's basically Young Pyromancer's ability, and then if you ever get to the point where you're flipping it, it's insane. Like, you have all these 3/2s. That's probably 9 power on board from just casting 3 instants or sorceries. Plus, you have this giant flyer. This also counts other wizards. I don't, off the top of my head, know any other wizards in Shadows over Innistrad, and I don't know how many we're getting from Eldritch Moon, but you just need 3 wizards on the battlefield. You do need to trigger this ability, so just playing 3 wizards won't work. You need to at least trigger this once with the 3rd wizard, or once you have 3 wizards, you need to trigger this ability, because transforming is part of this ability. But this card is insane. I'm just imagining, like, Eldritch Moon, or Shadows over Innistrad had blue rares like Thalia Moondrakes, which are just jokes in the format, really. This is incredibly strong, so blue might finally be getting the love it deserves in this set, even if it's not tribal based. A couple other cards I want to talk about here. I missed Unsubstantiate yesterday. I think it was spoiled kind of later in the day. This is a 2-mana instant, return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. Pretty nice. I'm a big fan of bounce spells. We already have Just the Wind, we already have Compel and Deterrence. This is another 2-mana bounce a creature spell, so there are just tons of them in this format. It really helps out tempo decks, but the fact that you can also use this as like a pseudo remand type card, or like just a general counter spell, events or type effect, where you can target a spell on the stack and send it back to the owner's hand, can really out tempo your opponent. These effects get a lot worse when you're playing them defensively, just like tap abilities, but when you're using them to really progress the game and you have attackers on board, they get a lot better. So these sort of effects are better in like white-blue tempo decks, or blue-red tempo decks, so on and so forth. And then one other card, actually 2 other cards I wanted to mention as soon as I find them. First off, here, these were spoiled, or I guess leaked a while back, but Thalia, Heretic Cathar. This is the buy a box promo. This is the actual art for the card up here. The buy box promo was spoiled first, but the official spoiler for this card is out. It's a legendary human soldier. Again, humans get all the love, because why not? With first strike, so 3/2 with first strike's already good. There's so much first strike on the white creatures in this set, it's ridiculous. But creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Pretty ridiculous. If you ever played against something like Blind Obedience and Limited, it is annoying when your creatures come in tapped. So if your opponent has Thalia, you're already way behind. Your creatures aren't blocking anyway because of first strike, and then they can't even attack right away if they have haste, stuff like that. This really locks down a lot of things, makes it super annoying to catch up in the game if you're behind. And then that part about non-basics just makes me believe that this is a modern playable card. Fetch lands come in tapped, and then the lands they fetch come in tapped. I believe shocks get around it. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you can untap with the shocks ability. But this is super strong in limited. This is super strong in standard, super strong in modern. I'll probably be replacing my Aven Mind Sensors in my Hate Bears deck with this card, just because it is super Hate Bears, and just having 2 Thalias next to each other seems insane. Yeah, this card's incredible. Draft it when you can. And again, if you buy the box, a booster box, you're getting one of these with it, so there you go. And then the last card I want to click here is Mythic Spoiler has it as Supplanter of Identity. The card has actually been confirmed, and the English translated name is Identity Thief. So everything here, the effect is right and everything, but the name is actually Identity Thief. If you check Puka Trade, I believe it has the actual art on there. But this is the release day promo art, so if you play the Friday or the weekend after pre-release, you will get one of these. Not super impressed with this one, but there are places for it. It's 2 and 2 blue, so 4 mana total for a 0/3. Starts off pretty weak, dies pretty easily, but whenever it attacks, you can exile another non-token creature. Doesn't have to be yours, you can exile a blocker off the opponent's side of the field. And if you do, Identity Thief becomes a copy of that creature until the end of turn. The creature that was exiled does return under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you won't get attack triggers off this. It's not the way it works, because this creature triggers on attacks, but the creature it turns into won't be attacking, if that makes sense. So you don't get attack triggers or anything like that. But you do get to just straight up exile a creature. The creature you exiled, if it's one of yours and it comes back in on the end step, you can rebuy your enter the battlefield triggers and stuff like that, just like any blink card. So this card is decent. I don't think it's like rare quality. It's not like super good. It seems decent in board stalls, and if you have cards that care about being flickered, then this seems a lot better. Also gets rid of certain auras, like Bound by Moonsilver. You can just exile the creature that's enchanted, and it bounces off that aura for the turn, basically. So there's a lot of flexibility in this card. I don't see it in standard not being a 0/3. I don't see it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Eldrazi Displacer already does everything this card wants to do, pretty much. But yeah, there you go. Identity Thief's the last card I wanted to talk about today, because I did actually skip over these. I was making individual cards for the early spoilers, but yeah. At any rate, a couple other things on my mind. We haven't seen a Planeswalker yet. Usually they start by spoiling like all the mythics, and we've only seen maybe 3 of them so far. So they're really pushing these mythics towards the end. I know Liliana will be spoiled probably next week due to that Access Magic if you watched it. Other than that, I'm excited about these. My wish list right now is still Tamiyo. I need to see Tamiyo. A good one-drop zombie to push zombies into standard. Something to push spirits into standard. I haven't seen anything yet. The werewolves and vampires I'm not so concerned about. I want zombies and spirits. So that's what I'm looking for when I see all these spoilers. Let me know what you're looking for. Let me know what's on your wish list for the rest of the set. And let me know what you think of the spoilers so far. If you have any questions about any of the cards, any of the mechanics, or if you have a wish list of your own, leave a comment below and tune in for more of these videos as more spoilers come out. At any rate, thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this. My name is Timothy. I will see you guys tomorrow for more videos, and remember to hit the like button down there. It's down there somewhere. I don't know. Hit the like button and subscribe. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.